to Sun Talks, a podcast by ISSC. In this podcast, we'll be talking about international student life and international community here at ASU. I'm your host Sukrit. Welcome to the podcast. Let's get started. Today, we are joined by one of our international student immigration advisors, Kenya.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, Kenya, and thanks for being here with us.
Thank you, Sukrit. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thanks for asking.
How has it been? How is working at ASU, working with international students?
I love it. I love working at ASU, working with the international students. I get to learn a lot from you all, so I love it. There's something new every day. I'm originally from Mexico, so I understand coming into the U.S. and being a different culture and all of that stuff. So, but I really love it. I enjoy it, and I like guiding all the international students through their time here at ASU.
Yeah, I think as you mentioned, so you are originally from Mexico, so you understand the cultural difference that some students experience when coming into ASU or any international country, right? So
Yeah.
how has that been for you? How did you cope up with that?
Yeah, so when I came here when I was around 6 years old. So I went to elementary, and the U.S. they have like a program for English learners. So it was much easier. But ASU does have a global lunch, which helps you, learn English better and stuff like that. But I think since I came at such an early age, my transition was smoother than mostly like a lot of international students who just come for college because you already grew up and you're set in norms from your own country. And so coming in here, like there's a much more difference. However, for me, coming in from Mexico, not from the U.S., I understand like there's so many different backgrounds that each of us have, and so just doing it with an open mind, understanding it that sometimes if someone does something a certain way, it's not. Don't take it personal. It's just maybe that's the way that they grew up and that's how they learn to do things. And so just be open minded really, and don't take things personal.
Exactly. So you're an advisor with ISSC, so you help students with their I think their OPT, CPT,
Yes.
right?
Yeah. So, international student immigration advisors, what we do is we're basically safeguarding your F1 status. So that's the purpose of what we're here. Like we're here to take care of your F1 status and ensure and do preventative measures because I don't know what your plans are to be here in the U.S., but the thing about immigration is that you have to make sure that you take care of it from the very beginning, that all your paperwork and documentation is correct throughout the beginning because something like a small mishap, a small mistake that you did in your F1 status can affect you in your future immigration applications because I also worked in an international law firm, and so if you apply for immigration statuses like H-1B, L-1s, and things like that, they look at all your immigration history here in the U.S. Oh, wow. So, yeah. So, I mean, the purpose for us is really to safeguard your status while you're here as an F1 student, but also make sure that, we want you to have a very successful immigration history here in the U.S. as well.
And so yeah, obviously, and then I think that there's like multiple types of CPT and OPT and stuff like that. Can you walk me through because I'm new, I don't know anything.
Yeah. So international at the F1 visa, it has many benefits for employment. So we have as an F1 student, you have the option of on-campus employment. So on-campus employment is strictly connected to only working on campus, servicing students from your university. Okay, and during the fall and the spring semester, during class sessions, you can only work up to 20 hours per week, capped. You can't. It's not per employment. No, it's in total. You can't work more than that. Because if you work more than that, that means you're doing unauthorized employment, which is a cost to terminating your F1 status.
Oh, so it's pretty serious.
Yeah, so it's pretty serious. That's one of the reasons why we have to terminate students, unfortunately. But as DSOs, as immigration advice, we have to make sure we're complying with F1 regulations.
Obviously.
We're legally obligated to do that. Okay, so on the other hand, for off-campus employment, we have, as an F1 student, you have what's the opportunity of doing CPT work authorization, which is curricular practical training, or you have pre-OPT during your degree program. So pre-OPT, so it's OPT, so it's optical practical training. Optical practical training is basically a 12-month work authorization for F1 students, and you can decide to either do it during your degree program or do it after you completed your degree.
So you can even do it before
Yeah,
the degree gets over?
Yeah, that's pre-OPT. But the thing about it is that when you're doing pre-OPT, it's as restricted as on-campus employment almost.
okay.
Meaning that during the fall and the spring semester, you can't do more than 20 hours. So you're limited. And the thing is also that during pre-OPT, anytime you use during pre-OPT, you cannot use it. You cannot will be reduced from your post-OPT.
Post-OPT,
Because you get 12 months total.
Okay.
Okay?
So if we go beyond that 12 months, then you're just not allowed to
You can't do post-OPT.
Okay.
And what I like to tell students is if your degree allows you to do and requires you to do CPT, which is like an internship that's required or an option for it through your degree program, do that because if you do CPT, no matter how much time you do on CPT, it won't affect how much time you can do on your post-OPT. The only time is if you do 12 months of full-time CPT, and through your degree program, you cannot do post-OPT.
So 12 months is the cap?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you can do post-OPT. But you can do unlimited amounts of part-time CPT. That won't affect at all. But it's all of what your degree requirement is, what your department of where your school is at, is what they allow. Because with curricular practice, CPT, curricular practical training, it's all about your academic department and if they allow it, and because you have to work with them is which employers their departments allow. Is the job that you're going to be doing, the internship that you're going to be doing, is it aligning with your degree? Is it because you have to enroll into an internship course in order to request a CPT I-20 from us.
And so basically you just have to make sure that what you're doing as an internship aligns with your degree and then with the college's requirements.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and then I think there's also something called as STEM OPT, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah. So STEM OPT though, unfortunately, that it's only for students who graduated with a STEM degree, and so it's not for everyone. So. Like I had to say earlier, OPT is a 12-month work authorization, right? So for STEM OPT, it's a 2-year extension, so 24-month extension. So, but this can only be applied before your post-OPT expires. So you would have to be in your post-OPT period, and you have to apply before the expiration of your post-OPT period for the 2 additional years of STEM OPT.
So if someone does it, after this post OPT gets over, then they're not eligible for the.
Yeah, they're not. They'll be denied because it's an extension,
okay.
right? So it's an extension, so it means it has to be a continuation there. So there can be a gap.
Is there any other conditions rather than just you have to apply before the end of your 12 months, or is there anything else with that?
Yeah. So for CPT, CPT is. We give you the authorization. Us as the DSOs, as immigration advisors, because we double check with the academic departments, we give you that I-20 that gives you work authorization, and in result, you can get the social security number and work, right? Okay. But for post-OPT, that work authorization is given through USCIS. So for post-OPT, you have to apply, you have to request the I-20 from us. We give you that I-20 once we confirm all the requirements and everything are met from our school perspective. And then you apply through USCIS for that work authorization. And USCIS can take anywhere from 1.5 months to 3.5 months to give you that EAD card. So it's a time game. So you have to make sure you're proactive about it. So for post-OPT, you apply through USCIS, and for STEM extension, you will also apply again through USCIS. But the process is different for each of them.
So, okay, let's walk through the process then, because I
Okay.
feel like I think for each one of them, it's kind of different from each other.
Yeah.
So starting with obviously CPT, because that's when you're getting into your internship, right?
Yeah.
So can you walk me through the process? Because I'm also planning to do my internship, so I
Yeah.
want to know.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so through CPT, basically the step is you can either start 2 ways. One, you found an internship, right? And then you go to your academic department and you say, hey, I found this internship. These are the requirements, these are the job duties. Does my degree either require me or allow me? Is there an internship course available for to practice what I'm learning through this internship to enhance it, right? That's one step. Or the other step is go directly to your academic department before you even start job hunting and say, hey, I want to do CPT. Is there an option? And if they say yes, then you can say, can you give me some guidance of where you can go? And then you can go to our Success Center here. So I think it's Success Service. not business service, success services, no, career services.
Career
Oh my
services.
gosh,
Oh,
I'm so sorry.
CPDS.
We have
Yes, yes.
so many departments, my bad. Yeah, so career services, and they help you find internships. We're really
Mm-hmm.
good at that. Okay, yeah, so you find that internship, your academic department already approved you,
Mm-hmm.
said you're enrolled in the internship course, right? Okay. But I forgot a step that you have to make sure that you request this CPT I-20 before the start of the semester.
Oh.
You request it. I mean, it cannot start before the start of a class session,
Mm-hmm.
but my recommendation is always request it before the start of the semester, because if you wait last minute, there's a high volume of students requesting it at the same time,
Mm-hmm.
and if you don't have that CPT work authorization in time, you cannot
You
work.
cannot work off campus.
And so that affects your job, you know, that because your employer might say, I need you to start on this day.
Right,
You're like, I
okay.
can't because I don't have work authorization. Then they're like, well, then try next semester, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so you request, you enroll in that course, and then your employer has to fill out what's called an employer information sheet.
Okay.
And this employer information sheet, it asks for the name, like their legal name, and things like that, like the address and your job duties, how many hours you're going to work a week, is it going to be remote, and then they have to sign off, right? This is very important. The employer information sheet is a document that we use at CA Advisors, the DSOs, to fill out your I-20 for CPT. So it's important that that information on there is already reviewed and approved by your academic advisor, because it also, in the process to requesting an I-20, we sent them out a little form and where they have to respond and say what's all they approve for your CPT. Do they approve the hours? Do they approve remote work or not remote work and things like that? And so that employer information sheet basically have to match with whatever your academic department approved. So you have to
okay.
make sure that aligns, because if it doesn't align, then that's causes delay, because I'm going to reach out to either you or your academic advisor saying, hey, this is not aligning. What's going on? What do you approve? What do you not approve? Because at the end of the day, as your DSOs, which is just designated school official, which is another title that we have to ensure that this CPT is meeting the requirements that are provided by regulations, because we're the ones essentially that give the work authorization.
So basically, when I go to my employer to say that, here's a form, you need to fill it out, I need to also make sure that I have the expectations of my academic advisor also put in place.
Yes.
And then I'm going to go to the employer and be like, hey, this is what my advisor told me, this is what is required, or this is what the expectations are from
Yeah.
ASU. So this is what you're going to have to meet, and this is how we have to work it out, basically.
Yeah, kind of saying like, this is what I'm required, this is what I'm allowed to do, this is what I'm allowed to do. I'm restricted because, I'm an international
yeah.
student. So it has to align with this, or else I'm not allowed to get the work. I won't be able to get the work authorization. And the thing about it is with career services and your academic advisors, they have a lot of employers that already know CPTs. They have CPT international students.
Yeah, of course.
And career services is really good at recommending you to employers that they're knowledgeable about CPT, and so they're 100% aware of this.
Yeah.
And so they're really willing to cooperate. It gets a little interesting when you're looking into employers who are not really comfortable or familiar with the CPT work authorization.
Yep. So basically, it's just you got to communicate with your employer, you got to communicate with your academic advisor, get everything in place, and then come to you, the
Yeah.
advisors, to make sure that everything's proper, and then you can approve it,
Yeah.
and then you can start working on time.
Yeah, and the way you come to us is you submit through your MySSC e-form portal. You submit the CPT I-20 e-form there, and it's really simple. You have to take a quiz because we have to make sure that you know the regulations for CPT. A simple quiz, you pass that, and then you proceed with filling out the actual form. And it's very simple, asks you very simple questions, and then you just have to, make sure you respond to those as truthfully as possible, and then you provide your academic advisors contact information. And it's very important that you provide the correct contact information, because if you don't, then since that's how we send the form out to them, it will cause a delay if you provide the wrong contact information.
And so let's say I finish my internship, I finish my CPT, and then I'm offered a full-time job at that company. And so now I have to go through OPT or STEM OPT, depending on my degree, right?
Okay, so so you're talking about being a full-time employer.
Full-time employer, yes.
That can only happen. You can do full-time CPT, but not as an actual employee. It'll be more as an.
But what
intern.
if after graduating, I mean?
Yeah, so post-degree program.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so we have students who are in CPT in their fall semester, and they graduate this fall semester, right? So the steps for them is, because they're graduating, they're completing their degree requirements by this semester. That means that their CPT work cannot go beyond December 9th.
Yeah.
Which is the program completion date for the semester for CPT. That's the day that we give. Okay. And their post OPT has to be post completion date, which would be for this fall, is on December 11th.
December 11th.
Okay. So that means that but the start date, if you choose a start date for post OPT, it has to be after December 11th. So it would be December 12th. Okay. So let me guide you through the process of
Yes,
post OPT.
please.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool. So for post OPT, so basically for post OPT, you can apply as early as 90 days prior to your program completion date. So you can apply as early to USCIS, but first you have to request the I-20 from us.
Gotcha.
So to request the I-20, you can request it as early as 100 days prior to your program completion date. So 100 days before December 11th, you request the I-20 from us, and that I-20 you have to provide your program completion date and your academic advisor's contact information. You do not need to provide your employer's information. You do not need to provide an offer letter or anything like that, because post-completion OPT is just a work authorization. You'll get an EAD card, which is a work authorization document, and it's not, unlike CPT, post-OPT is not connected to one employer. It's a benefit from an F1 status. So oh my gosh. So we are the ones that is sponsoring that visa, that status, that employment authorization, right? So you request that I-20 from us. You have to make sure you provide all the documents. There is a maintenance fee that we charge, and then there's all the other documents. So you request that I-20, you receive that I-20. When you receive that I-20 from us, before requesting it, you have to make sure you choose your start dates for post-OPT.
Okay.
The start dates from post-OPT have to be within 60 days from your program completion date.
Okay.
So if your program's completing on December 11th, that means that your CPT start date can be from December 12th to February 9th.
Okay.
It can be any days in that day range, okay? And if you're applying really early, then I say go ahead and select an early start date. But if you're applying a little late in the game, select a further out start date. Because the thing is, during post-OPT, you have a maximum of 90 days of unemployment. And so any days that you're unemployed from the start date on your EAD card, you'll be accruing unemployment days. And if you go over those unemployment days, then your status gets invalidated.
The unemployment days start from the date on your EAD card.
Yes,
not the day your course ends December
No,
9th
no,
or
no.
11th.
Yeah, a lot of students, that's a good question, because a lot of students get confused about that. So no, it starts from the start date on your EAD card. That's when the unemployment days start.
So let's say so I have to choose a date within 60 days of my graduation for my EAD card. So let's say that I choose December 25th, Christmas.
Yes.
So if I choose December 25th and I don't have an employment by then, that means that my unemployment days start from December 25th.
Yes,
Okay.
but also relates to, because if USCIS, if they are adjudicating their processing your application after the start date, what they typically do is they push that start date out a little further out. So, I mean, you might think your life is ending because, December 25th is already there. But in reality, USCIS would typically, if they would move the start date to the date after they adjudicated the case. So let's say it's December 28th, and that's when they approved the case. So they would move your start date to December 28th, and then just give you that 1 year minus 1 day authorization timeline. Yes,
That's nice of them.
Yes, that's typically what they do. Unfortunately, we've seen some students that don't get that, and for that, we suggest them, to reach out and see if they can fix that, because that's what they go for. That's what they do. And so where were we? Okay, so you request the I-20.
Yes.
You choose the start dates, and then you get that I-20, and then once you get that I-20 from us, you have up to 30 days for that I-20 to be invalidated. So if you don't submit your application to USCIS within those 30 days, you're going to have to request another I-20. Last summer, we had 5 students, all friends. They all submitted their application to USCIS 32 days after we issued that I-20, with that I-20.
With the old one that's expired.
Yeah, with the 32-year-old 32 days old, oh my gosh, I-20 to USCIS. And so they submitted that, and they were also really close to the the end of the 60-day grace period, because that's also the thing. You have to apply to USCIS within the 60-day
60
grace
days.
period. So you can apply as early as 90 days prior to your program completion date, but no later than the
60 days.
60th day. Yeah. And so they were like on the last day.
Oh, wow.
And they submitted, and they were like, they came in, all 5 of them, and they all spoke to me. And I submitted mine really late, and I was like, unfortunately, because it's USCIS, like by the time that they'll get to your application, there's just no way that you'll be able to, because if they reject you, and if you're within your 60-day grace period, you can reapply. But if they reject you and
It's
you,
after the
after the
60.
60, you cannot apply. So that's it. And so, fortunately, we were able to work it out with some students and USAS, because it's not one person doing all the cases; it's different agents. So it's whoever you get. And so some of them were able to get it denied before the end of the 60-day grace period, like one day before, and then they reapplied, and then that student was able to make it. But not all of them were as fortunate because they didn't get to their applications.
That leads to my next question. So
Yeah.
let's say that I apply on the 50th day,
Yes.
right? And then so USCIS is going to take some time to do my application, go through it. Let's say the 60 days get over, but my application has been submitted. I'm waiting for a response. I've not heard back. So am I still okay? Am I safe or
To remain here in the U.S.?
to remain? Yes.
Yeah. So you can remain in the U.S. as long as your application is pending with USCIS.
Okay.
So you're good.
So we're good even after the 60 days if my
Yeah, even
okay.
after as long as your application is pending with USCIS, before the 60th day, you can remain in the U.S.
But in the not the one unlikely situation that it gets
better not
denied,
happen to you.
Yeah, it gets denied after the 60 days. Then
If your application gets denied, I mean, we have a process in where you can submit your denial and see if there's anything we can do. But if there's nothing can be done, if we can't, talk about it or whatever, because we haven't had like a situation like that just yet. But if in the case that it's denied and there's nothing you can do, then if it's beyond the 60-day grace period, then you have to be prepared to depart from the U.S. If it's not, then we'll give you the options, like you can reapply, blah blah blah, and things like that.
so this leads to my next question. Like, what are the do's and do nots in terms of like applying for anything like CPT, OPT, STEM OPT? Like, what
Yeah.
are some common mistakes? What are some things that you need to do? That your advice is for doing it on time? Or something
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah. So I think a lot of it is a time game. Just with immigration, it's a time game because, especially with post OPT, you have to, you always don't wait till last minute to do it. Because if there's situations like what happened to this group of students, if there's situations like that, there's no way we can try to help you to fix it. It's about always being preventative, doing preventative measures instead of being reactive, dealing after the fact.
Better safe than
Yeah,
sorry.
very safe than sorry, especially with immigration, because especially when it comes to USCIS is very particular, very strict. And there's, as DSOs, once you applying with USCIS, there's nothing really we can do. We can't even contact them for you because we've tried and they say no. The student has graduated. This is now their responsibility to do their stuff. Of course, if there's something that's an error from our DSO and things like that, that's when we can communicate. But other than that, no. USCIS, it has to be strictly it's a relationship between the student and the officer, and USCIS officer. So the dues that I say you should do is be always proactive. Don't wait until the last minute. Make sure that your information on the forms that we provide are as accurate as possible. If you're ever unsure of a question or how to fill out something, send us an email. Come to advising. If you have a particular situation, come to advising. Ask us. We'll let you know what's going on. If you have a situation that's so bizarre that you're like, there's like this, I don't think this is related to me, blah blah blah. Come to advising. We'll let you know. Like, okay, well, this is the steps that you can take. Maybe this is what you can do. Blah blah blah. Things like that. Definitely do not submit your application after 30 for post OPT after 30 days that we've issued that I-20, because you will get denied, and then and every time you apply to USCIS, that's money that you have to apply. But what USCIS offers right now though is premium processing, which is $1,500 for that. I know it's a lot of money, but you didn't even blink. No.
I mean, to be honest, me personally, anything with related to immigration, I don't mind
Yeah, if you
spending
think
the
it's worth
money.
it, yeah.
It's worth it because, rather than spending some extra amount in like something that I want, I would
Yeah.
rather spend it on something that's important
Yeah.
to me. So that's why I'm just like,
That's a great mentality.
yeah, so that's why that I'm unfazed by that. My parents, when they first told me about this, because so my parents live in Glendale and they're like,
Yeah.
they're managing on their own. But when they told me about this processing fee, I was just like, okay, it's fine. And then my parents were like, it's 1,500. Do you realize the value of that money?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, but you know,
It's important.
It's exactly.
Yeah, the way I've asked a student about that because he did it twice because he got denied
Wow.
once and then he did it reapplied and did the premium processing because he's like, this job opportunity is so important and I will get paid a lot more. So it's the $1,500 right now is nothing to compare to the salary that I'm going
Wow.
to get at this company. I forgot what company. I think it was like Microsoft or something.
I think I'm gonna apply for Microsoft.
Yeah, yeah. Those salaries are really good. But yeah, and so it's worth it. And so usually when you apply for premium processing, instead of USCIS taking 1.5 months to 3 months to adjudicate your case, they take more of a 1 month or 20, like from 15 to 1 month,
Oh, that's not
depending
bad.
on the volume. Yeah. So students who have for example, they say that my employment is starting in December 18th, and my case is still pending, and it's already like November 29th. They say I'm going to do premium processing, so maybe that way I will get that EAD card because the thing is on poster BT, even if your start date has passed, if you don't have that EAD card in hand, you can't work.
Oh,
Because you need that EAD card in
so
hand.
without the EAD card, I'm not allowed to work.
No.
Even if I have everything else.
Yes,
Okay.
you cannot, because that's a SCVP policy, which is the department that oversees the F1 status. So USCIS might say something else, but no, it's F1 status is through the SCVP. So if they say you need that EAD card, you need the EAD card.
Okay.
USCIS, what they do is they give you the EAD card after you apply for it. But yeah, if you don't have that EAD card in hand, you cannot work.
So let's say that I have a job offer that starts after the new year. So let's say it's
Yeah.
on January 5th, an example.
Yes.
So if I have my EAD card and everything, but this is like way after my course end date, is that fine? Am I still okay to stay until my job starts? Or
You said what was the day you said?
January 5th.
Yeah. So remember I said the 60th day from your program completion date from this fall, for example, it's the program completion is December 11th, right?
December 11th.
So
okay.
you add 60 days to that. So for this fall, the 60th day is February 9th. So as long as your start date has to be within those days.
Oh, so
No
if
ma-
it's beyond February 6th or February 9th, then it's...
No, because you have to request a start date with us.
Okay.
And if you request a start date that's out of the 60th day, we will not recommend that I-20. We will not approve it. We will say
Okay.
you have to choose a start date that's within that
60-day grace period. Okay.
Yeah, and you have to be like, you'll get that EAD card. Now, if you actually start working, if you don't have an employment, let's say you have your EAD card in hand and your start date on the EAD card is February 9th, right? And you don't have an employment until your job doesn't start until like February 30th. There's no February 30th.
February 30th. I was like,
Hold
wait,
on,
wait.
February
Excuse me.
20th. Sorry, I'm like getting closer to this. February 5th. Okay, let's say the start date is February 5th, right? February 25th, my
25th,
bad.
yeah.
Dates
It's fine.
all over the place.
Which month are we in?
I know, time. What is it? Yeah, so February 25th, right? Okay, so from February 9th, since that's the start date on your EAD card, to February 25th, if you're not employed, you accrue those unemployment days.
Oh, so it goes from that 90 days.
Yeah,
of
remember? So
Yes, yes.
your 90 days of unemployment start from the start date on your EAD card. So if you don't have a job, then that will be taken from that wallet of unemployment days that you have. So from the 9th to the 25th, that's 16 days. So that will be subtracted from the 90 days that you're giving during post OPT. So now you have, 690 months? Like it's 80, no, 74.
74, right?
74,
That's
74.
what
Yes, simple math.
I don't do well in math.
Me either.
I'm a business major, but that's
That's
fine.
why I'm an advisor, not a mathematician. Yeah, so then you have 74 days left throughout your rest of your post-OPT period, right? So throughout your post-OPT, when you get your EAD card, the start day is there. You get an email to access your SCVP portal. So that's the portal and where you're going to report all your employment. Okay, so during post-OPT, you can do 3 types of employment: unemployment, unpaid employment, internships, or paid employment. And you can even be self-employed, right? Okay, so then you have to report that through the SAVP portal, provide the name of the employer, the information, the address, and things like that. and that's how you're reporting throughout post OPT. If you maintain your status, meaning that you haven't gone over the unemployment dates, you have been reporting your employment within time and things like that. Because during post OPT, you have to report all employment change within 10 days,
10 days.
from when that change took place.
So obviously, as students finish their degree and they graduate from ASU, they start doing OPT, post OPT, and then STEM OPT. What are the resources that ICC provides to these, I would say, postgraduates? I'm not sure what word to use, but people who just graduated from ASU. So do they still have some sort of like resources that they could use from ASU?
Yeah, so we're still there. So as long as you're within your post OPT and STEM, if you get there, if you can apply and you're in that period, we'll still be there. We're still there to answer any questions regarding immigration. Unfortunately, since we're immigration advisors, our advice and our resources are limited to immigration status, pertaining to your immigration status. So we do offer, throughout the resources we offer, it's guidance about your immigration status. We provide webinars. I run the webinars. I create them. I plan topics and things like that. And I always try to make it as informational as possible. We do webinars throughout the whole year, virtual and in person as well. If you want to come in person, if you're in Arizona, visit us. But if you're not, then you can just do it virtual, and then we run. Our advisors are there. You can take advantage of that. And at the end of each webinar, we have questions, and you can come and ask a question there. About throughout the presentation, we talk about how to maintain your status, how to make sure you're not doing something that's not authorized for F1 students. And then what we provide is also advising. You can always come in for advising. We send out emails, so many emails. I'm sure all the students can relate. Even now, you'll still be receiving emails from us.
But I think those emails are helpful.
Yeah, they definitely are.
I think definitely you should read the emails because they have some information. Because I read those emails and there's so much oh, I didn't know about that, or oh, that's interesting. So obviously.
And a lot of the times in those emails, we'll provide resources. Maybe it's not something that we do, but it's something that another department does. So a lot of the times we might provide a link to our career services department. Contact them. If you're still looking for a job, contact them. If you're on OPT and you don't have an employer lined up for you, you can do an internship. We have the Apex program. Here is the contact information for that. We provide resources like that where you can go, where we give you guidance of where you can look, because the thing is, once you've graduated, our purpose is to give you guidance of how you can find those answers. Because for your immigration journey, unfortunately, you're not going to always have someone there with you. We want to teach you so that you can find those answers on your own. And if you're confused, always come and ask us the question.
So even if I have graduated from ASU, I can still come back and ask questions.
Yeah, as long as you're still on your F1 stat. Yeah. Because really, we can only advise on F1. We have a little bit of knowledge here for H1B because that's something that you can transition into. But that's really anything other than F1 status, you have to talk to an immigration advisor. Gotcha. Because as DSOs, we're only supposed to be advising on F1 status.
F1 status.
Yes.
So, other than this, if you have any advice for students who are planning to apply for CPT, STEM OPT, or OPT, or if you have any other suggestions to students who are even just considering or graduating?
Yeah, I think really look at our website because our websites are very informational. We have a webpage dedicated for everything. We have a webpage dedicated to CPT, post-OPT, pre-OPT, STEM. We have a webpage there, and there's instructions, step-by-steps, on how to apply, videos. Frequently asked questions are there too, which is look at that. Before you send an email, look at that section, and your question might be there.
Might be there.
And my advice is always look at our website, review the information, and then send an email.
I think, so before I came to ASU, the first thing I did was go through ISSC's website, just learn everything about, what it's like to be a new student coming in.
Yeah.
And then after that, that's when if I had any questions, I would first Google it, then because I don't think I didn't use ChatGPT when I came in, so I used to Google it, and then I would ask my advisor for questions or whatever. So that's how I did it. I think the ISSC website, YouTube, Instagram. I think they're all super helpful.
Very informational,
Yes.
and I'm glad to hear that because not unfortunately not everyone's like that, and they just come straight, ask really general questions, and when I see those emails, I'm like, there's so much information that I can send you in this email. So typically, I just refer to the student. I give them a link specifically to what they're asking about. I always say, review this website, look at all the information on your own, digest it on your own. And if you have any questions, specific questions to that, come back for advising or send an email. You know, because via email, there's so much I need to know in order to answer the questions from you. So it's better, you know, figure what's specifically you're asking about, like what scenario specifically, what's about the policy of immigration and that status that you want to do, the work authorization, you know, and then send us an email. Don't ask, because a general question is like, that's general information that's not particularly tailored, and it's better for you to digest it on your own than me just giving you.
Just giving the information.
Yeah.
I think, okay, so this actually goes into another question that I had. So, you know how when we email our academic advisors, they always require the ASU ID number
Yes.
and then like a general set of information so that they can identify who we are. So, do you have anything that if a student's reaching out to you, do you require something that like helps you understand who that student is and review their situation?
Yeah. So really, because we deal with immigration, so all of the emails that you send us are all tracked. They're all tracked, stored. Your profile, we have a system, and when we have your profile there, as soon as you give us your ID, your student ID number, we know you. We know everything that we've said to you. We know all the communications, all the questions that you've had. What's your current status, where you're at in your degree, and things like that. So really, you don't need to explain who you are. You just really need to explain your situation that you're specifically asking that question about.
But all you need is just the,
The ID,
ID number.
yes.
Okay.
We just need the ID number.
Awesome. I think this is all that I had for you. Thank you so much. And then obviously, we all appreciate the work you do, and our transition to ASU and then outside of ASU would not have been possible without the advisors' help at ISSC. So thank you.
No problem. Our pleasure. And always, if you have questions, you can always come to us, and we'll try to help you the best we can.
I think the email is ISSC,
ISSC.ASU.
ASU.edu,
Yep.
right? Yep.
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye bye.